November 5th trade deadline approaching. The Jets are running out of time to change the course of their season. Connor Rogers, if the Jets lose to the Texans, can you see Joe Douglas moving any players before the deadline to salvage some long-term success for this team?
I mean, teams will want them. This player market is really thin right now, and there are a lot of contenders because of how poor both the AFC has been and how wide open the NFC can be. And the Jets have things that teams need. Wide receiver, Mike Williams maybe. I would be really surprised if they just pulled the cord on the Devontae Adams situation, but if I was hired as GM today, I would blow this thing up, and he would absolutely be someone I would try to get some compensation back for. And then you look at the defensive side of the ball. Is there a situation where you can unload a Hassan Reddick if you think that I love DJ Reed, heart and soul player. He's on an expiring contract. He's probably going to hit free agency. We all know that's the worst kept secret. You can get something for a corner like him that's playing at a really high level in a year where not a lot of people are on the Jets defense. So if I could stockpile an extra 4th round pick, 5th round pick, 6th round pick from this deadline, I'm absolutely doing it. The Jets have the players to do so. But at the end of the day, the problem is I don't believe that the current GM and the structure of this organization will actually do that right now.
Sorry, we've talked about this before. If the Jets can't prove they're a winning organization, do you see stars like Garrett Wilson, Breece Hall requesting trades this offseason?
We'll see on that front. I don't know if I'm ready to go that strong with it. I mean, that would be pretty damning if Garrett and Breece are asking to get out, because those are two foundational players and would probably paint a very, very, very negative look at the current state of this team. Look, based off what we saw Breece Hall looking like in the post-game locker room with his hand in his head, with a towel over his head, just staring at the floor in full uniform. Yeah, I could absolutely see something like that happening. But this is more about the players who are on expendable and expiring contracts, like Connor said. I mean, again, Joe Douglas isn't necessarily running the show anymore. This has kind of been Woody's operation ever since he fired Robert Saleh. He took control. He's like, look, this thing's going down. I'm going to right the ship. I'm going to fix things. So Joe is just doing what Woody instructs him to do. That's why when Drew Rosenhaus came here to try to fix the Hassan Reddick situation, he met with Woody Johnson. Woody Johnson then went to Joe and said, hey, finish this up and get this done. And then they figured it out and they made it work. So what I would keep an eye on, and this is if the Jets lose to the Texans, because if they beat to the Texans, I do believe they're not going to be buyers at the deadline, because I don't know who else they can buy. They've already bought everyone that they can buy. But at the deadline, I think they'll probably keep the team and try to see this one through. However, if they lose to the Texans on Thursday night, that's when I do genuinely believe the Jets should blow this up with anybody on an expiring contract. That's Tyler Conklin, who I believe will have value. That's DJ Reed, I believe he has value. That's CJ Mosley, I believe he could have value. He's actually under contract for next year. And the other player to keep an eye on is Tyrod Taylor, who I believe could also have value. There's so many teams out there that are maybe looking for a veteran. I don't think Aaron Rodgers is dealt. I don't think Aaron Rodgers can be dealt. I don't think anyone would want Aaron Rodgers at this point. But Tyrod Taylor is somebody who has played in so many different offenses, reliable veteran, knows what he's doing. A team like the Browns, who maybe want to try to make a little bit of a run. There's so many. A team like the Raiders, who's dealing with issues. I mean, there's so many teams out there that could absolutely use somebody like Tyrod Taylor that he's an option. But there would be absolutely no point in the Jets holding on to these players at 2-7. 3-6. Maybe you're starting to think, all right, look, we beat the Cardinals next week, then we can maybe start going against so I get that. 3-6, I believe that they can still believe. But if they are 2-7, that is officially the end. And anyone who's on an expiring contract, anyone who do not believe is going to be on the Jets 2025 and beyond, trade them for whatever you can get. And for some of those players like a DJ Reed, I could see you getting something like a 3rd-round pick. I think you could get something that's substantial for him.
That's actually a great lead into my next question, and I'll ask you, Connor Rogers. So, like we said, we don't know if Aaron Rodgers is going to return or not. But if the Jets continue to lose, so if they're now lose to the Houston at 2-7, do you see Woody Johnson trying to salvage the team with the stars he already has, or is it going to blow up the team in a complete rebuild?
I think that if this thing spirals out of control like it already has going into the offseason, they need to have an honest combo and make this job somewhat attractive. And I'll tell you right now, nobody's going to want to come take this job besides Rex Ryan that doesn't get the chance to rebuild it. I mean, literally, that's how it's going to be for them. Not a lot of coaches are not going to be attracted to coming to an organization that's running it back one more time with the 41-year-old Aaron Rodgers. I'm sure some of the young players would be frustrated by the direction of this organization if they don't really figure out a concrete plan and get legitimate football people here in the offseason. So I think the prudent move is to, and I know a lot of Jet fans don't want to hear this, but you're going to have to give the keys to the car to somebody that you think can rebuild it the right way. And Jets fans have heard that before, because I think doubling down is the worst thing they could do right now. Joe Douglas has already structured a ton of contracts with bad void money and dead money for future years ahead. You don't want to dig yourself any deeper into this hole. If it didn't work this year, here's a hint for you. It's not going to work running it back next year with these guys. So I think you would need to get somebody that is a legitimate football mind in here, that has the respect to hire a legitimate coaching staff and can come in and make the hard decisions. Are we going to extend Garrett Wilson and roll forward with him as a foundational piece? Are we going to consider trading a Sauce Gardner? And then who's here that can actually be a part of the future? And if you're not, you're going to get left behind. So I think the ideal move, unfortunately, is you're going to have to start over yet again, because once again, you don't want to dig yourself even deeper into this Aaron Rodgers hole.
You do, and Connor put it perfectly. I mean, I look at this roster right now, and this was the year to make the run. And then if you made the playoffs and got to the AFC Championship or divisional round or something of that nature, then you could say, okay, boys, one more go. Like the swan song, like let's do it. We're going one more year all in next year. But you look at this team and the veteran guys, Aaron's not going to be better at 42 than he is right now. Tyron Smith's not going to be better. Morgan Moses isn't going to be better. When you look at this roster, I tweeted this morning, they should have a relatively healthy-ish cap situation when you look at the number. When you're like, wow, $50 million projected right now. You make a couple moves, maybe they get to $70 million or something like that. True, absolutely. But when you look at what the Jets are going to need, that money is going to evaporate so quickly. Assuming that Rodgers retires and Devontae leaves and all that stuff, you were talking about just on offense, this team needing a new quarterback, a new backup quarterback, a new wide receiver 2, a new wide receiver 3, a new tight end because Tyler Conklin's going to be gone, a new right tackle because Morgan Moses is going to be gone. That is 6 positions on offense. You flip to defense, they're going to need a defensive end opposite Hassan Reddick. They're going to need a defensive tackle opposite Quinnen Williams. They're going to need a new cornerback opposite Sauce Gardner. They're going to need a new safety for Chuck Clark. Those are just starters. Then you also take into consideration the depth pieces that the Jets are going to need, because they're going to need backups for a lot of these guys, because guys like Wes Schweitzer and so many of these other veterans, Mike Williams, that are on this team playing number 2 backup roles, they are going to be gone as free agents. That money is going to be gone like that, and it's not like the Jets have a treasure trove of draft picks to continue to flush out and fill out the roster that way, because they've traded so many of those selections. So that, again, kind of goes back to talking about trading and being sellers at the deadline, where if you don't think guys are going to be there 2025 and beyond, don't believe you're going to compete for Super Bowl in 2025 and beyond, just get as many draft capital and picks as you can to make this team a desirable destination for the next general manager and the next coach. Because if you're talking about a top 5 pick, $80 million in cap space, also seconds and thirds and fourths that you've accumulated throughout this year, maybe you can try to get somebody with a little bit better pedigree than the opportunity the Jets are going to have here, because right now, I don't necessarily know how many people are going to want this job.